Welcome to Lessons in Dyslexic Thinking, conversations with some of the world's most inspiring dyslexics, where we learn what dyslexic thinking is and how we can employ it to change the world. Today, I'm joined by makeup artist to the stars and fellow podcaster Quinn Murphy. Lovely to see you, Quinn.
Great to see you too.
Quinn, you have made up some of Hollywood's most famous faces, from Natalie Portman to Kate Hudson. But it's your dyslexic thinking that allows you to connect with people in a way that's much more than skin deep. You've said, I listen to people with what I call ears on my heart. I can hear what people are saying to me, but I also sense what I'm feeling from them, which is a wonderful, wonderful quote. Of course, dyslexics are known for their ability to sense, understand, and respond to other people. We have amazing emotional intelligence. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and why you think that's helped you to succeed?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's such an honor. I know there was a coin toss about if you were going to have Sir Richard Branson first, which you did, or me, but, glad to be here. It's funny because I'm still discovering what about my dyslexia informs who I am as a person, because unfortunately, you usually learn about your dyslexia through what you're not good at or what you can't do. And so this part of my life, I'm actually trying to hone in on what dyslexia brings to who I am. So in some ways, I don't know the answers to a lot of things because I don't know if it's who I am, what's my astrological chart, what's my dyslexia. But I can tell you that I have always felt intuitive. I've always kind of been able to take in what someone's saying and what they're not saying and what's really going on in a situation, which when you're dealing with people in entertainment and fashion is really helpful.
When you're doing makeup, because all of the pictures I've seen of the makeup you've done, it's really natural but really beautiful. And I know you are working on beautiful canvases and beautiful faces, but that always strikes me when I see the makeup you've done. It's just incredibly natural and people almost glow. And I wonder how much of that is that you're having to tap into that sort of inner sense of how they're feeling to bring that out. I'm really fascinated. And I'd love
Thank
you to
you.
do my makeup one day.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you for the compliment. I think every makeup artist has their own aesthetic, and that's kind of where mine lies is, I have my own aesthetic and what I find beautiful, and I try and bring that to every client that I work with. I do think it's not only about what I like when I walk into a room and do someone's makeup, it's also the person who I'm doing it on, or the photographer's direction, or the art director. So it's really collaborative. I have my own kind of place where I like to lie, but also it's about the person who I'm working with and what they want, and listening and trying to understand how they want to feel when they're done. When I've completed the makeup, do they want to feel sexy? Do they want to feel clever? Do they want to feel just untouched and like raw, like themselves? And so all of that is part of, you're looking for clues all the time about where to go and what direction with the makeup. It can be like, what do you hate when people have done your makeup? What do you love when people have done your makeup? What do you want to feel like today? What do you want to look like today? Researching the photos of them on the red carpet, looking at editorial photos, so that when you're coming into a room, especially with someone for the first time, you understand the world that you're in with them, right? So all of that kind of informs what I do when I'm working with someone, and hopefully my aesthetic somehow meets their aesthetic, and we, make magic.
There's so much dyslexic thinking in what you've just described. The fact that
Really?
the fact you're having to see the big picture. So it's taking in all of the elements around you. You're talking about, where you are, who the film crew is, who the director is, and all of those things, as well as then all of the emotional intelligence of reading that person, what they're saying, and I guess what they're not saying as well, because often we don't say what we're really thinking. So you've got to sense that and then creating something with your art and your makeup around that. So it's a real sense of multi-sensory thinking and visualizing and the big picture and everything else. It's fascinating.
For as long as I can remember, like we were in school and had to work on something, I've always thrived and loved when it was a group project, because I was very well aware early on what I was not good at and what I could actually excel at. So I found that when I'm in a group setting, I have no problem kind of giving over to other people about what their strengths are, and then I can lean into what mine are. And so, for instance, if somebody was really good, at spelling and grammar and had a very linear kind of way of thinking, I could easily say, okay, you do this, I'll do that, and come up with something. And everything I do now in my career is collaborative. I have really not a lot of interest in like working on a canvas in an art studio by myself. That's just not where I thrive. I love part of what I do is that it's social, that it's working with people, that the person I'm doing makeup on is going somewhere that's real, that's going to be in the world. So it's not like a static piece of art. It's that the whole thing is about, what is the hair going to be? What are you wearing? What's the shoe? Where are you going? How did they light that red carpet last year? All of those kind of things, and thinking into the future about the setting, it all informs your work, because it's not just about doing one makeup every time by rote. It's really about trying to think ahead and do the best job given the elements that are required.
And do you think you've always been really good with people and always had that emotional intelligence to be able to read people?
I do. I think my only talent would be to be a great dinner guest, at a table. I think that's where I would like shine more than any like one skill. I think again, like when you're young and you're not good at spelling, you're not good at reading, you automatically tap into what you are good at, hopefully. And I know that in real life, I can get my ideas across and connect with people and, be a storyteller. It doesn't necessarily translate to formal writing or having to put my thoughts on the page. Now, as an adult, I know that I have people who can help me with that. But the part that it always comes from the people to people skills. I would say that's definitely something I can say I've always had.
And what would you say your challenges are with work today? What things do you still struggle with today?
It's funny because I think my advice and what naturally happens if you're not pushed from society or your parents or other people is that you naturally go into a field where your strengths are mostly celebrated and required, and you don't have to do the other things. I purposely am not a textbook editor. I don't work at a bank. I don't have to do those tasks, and I would never be drawn to that. So in my life now, day to day, very little is depends on reading and writing. I have to read my call sheet, where to show up and everything. But I still have times where I have to write, formal emails or do, my taxes or things like that. And, you get through it. You just kind of put your head down, ask for help, and get it done. But I'm fortunate enough that I've found a career where I'm not constantly feeling like I'm not living up or measuring up because of my dyslexia.
Yeah, so it's lean into your strengths and delegate your challenges,
Totally.
basically.
Totally.
And have you ever done a job that didn't do that, or did you go straight into?
No, I did have a job. When I moved to New York, I got a job at a big cosmetic company because wanted to work in makeup and cosmetics, and I didn't know that you could be a freelance makeup artist. And I was an administrative assistant, and I think I just barely passed the test. You had to get a 70, and I think I had a 70 or 71. I don't even know how that happened. And I did that job, but I was always trying to be creative and do more. And I was, making decks about things. And that wasn't really what my boss wanted, just a career admin. And I was not great at it. I always had that feeling of, oh my God, I'm going to get found out. People are going to read my emails and see that there's tons of errors, or just even people calling on the phone and telling me their name and having to put their number down. It was like, oh my God, this is so hard. I waited tables growing up. That was very challenging because, taking the orders and just simple things that other people might find very rudimentary were difficult for me. But I got fired from that job, which was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I actually kind of enjoyed the world of it, and I probably would have stayed there for a long time, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't been. So it was great. It didn't feel great at the time, but yeah, I would definitely say that I would never start a new career, do something different that wasn't creative or that didn't celebrate my strengths at this point in my life.
Yeah, that whole formula of leaning into your strengths is important for everybody, but for a dyslexic person, it's absolutely vital, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the way that school is, especially when I was growing up, was that you had to be well-rounded and be good at everything in order to get to where, the best school, or go on and move forward. And I think that's actually incorrect, is that most people I know who are very successful are specialized. They're good at what they do really well, and they're actually very well aware of their weaknesses or things they're not as good at. But when you're an adult, I mean, nobody's going to ask you, if you're a bad speller, like, how do you spell X, Y, and Z word? Like, nobody cares. So I would tell somebody young just to get through it, do what you can, but that lean into what you're good at, because that's what's really going to make you successful, that and not giving up.
Yeah, and that's amazing advice for kids, because I think there's this tendency to feel, because we're not good at stuff at school, that we have to be good at everything. And actually, you're completely right. It's about specializing. The things that you're good at are your superpowers, and everything else you need to do as little as you can of, or delegate. And that is the kind of the secret of success, isn't it?
Yeah. My goal in life would be to have like somebody, like just to do all the things I don't want to do. Like if I had an assistant who could just like open all my mail, write all my emails, and do all the like accounting stuff, then I would be good.
Oh, that sounds like the ideal thing for everybody, doesn't it? Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask the question of, tell us a time that you failed and what you've learned from it. You've obviously shared one story about the job that you had that you failed, but failure is so important, because it actually sets us on the right path, and helps us to really build resilience. Is there a time that you failed? Is there something that you really learned from it?
I don't think I would grow as a human being if I hadn't failed. I think you don't learn to meditate because you're just so happy in life. You do it because you have no other choice. For me, I don't push myself out of my comfort zone unless it feels like the only thing necessary, or here goes nothing, I'm going to try it. I think in school, I think not being a great reader, not being a great speller in elementary school, I felt in some ways like that was a failure, and I'm not sure that feeling will ever go away. Not that I feel like a failure now, I don't, absolutely, but the feeling that you have, because to be dyslexic when I was in school was a form of humiliation. I felt humiliated every time that you had to go around the room and read out loud. It felt, humiliating. And part of that feeling for me has made me want to try harder and to lean into what I'm good at, and realize that, I'm not the average learner. And so don't try to be, and try to lean into what I'm good at. I don't think you have to feel bad about yourself to succeed. I just think that for me, part of that feeling also became motivation, and that's the whole point of failure, is to not dwell on it, but to get back up and learn from it and keep moving forward. And like, I have a thing now that I try to do, because I'm not perfect, but every time I get bad news, or I'm up for a job and I don't get it, which happens all the time. Everybody in my industry, you're constantly dealing with rejection and disappointment. It's just what comes with the territory. If you want to operate at a certain level, you're setting yourself up for more hurdles.
Yeah, it's the same in every industry, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But now, every time I get a piece of bad news, I try and do something for myself right away. So I got released from a job. I'm going to work on my brand. I'm going to do one task so that I don't feel victimized by bad news or failure, that actually I can reroute it and not dwell on it, because I've done that too.
So it's turning it into a positive.
Turning it into a positive, and not being a victim of it, and making it and being proactive. That's really helped me.
So tell us about your brand. I know a little bit about it, but it sounds absolutely amazing.
It is funny because I never wanted a brand. I thought, God, there's so many brands. You walk into Sephora, and I'm a makeup artist, and I feel overwhelmed and confused. And I just thought, there's so much noise. There's so many things out there. And I had an idea for a product that doesn't really exist on the market. It's a certain type of concealer, and I went looking for it, and it's not out there. And then I started listening. I have another colleague who makes these incredible videos on YouTube that get like millions of views. And he said, anything that involves acne, which is my product, is kind of an acne solution. He goes, the views are incredible. So I went, ding, one thing. Then I made a little MacGyver, version of it for a friend of mine who has rosacea, because he was going on dates and didn't want to look like he's wearing makeup, and that my product looks like you're not wearing makeup, but you cover spots. And so he was like, Quinn, you've got to make this. Like, it's incredible. So it helped him. That was like, ding, another one. And so finally I went, I was listening, and it was like there were signs that maybe this could be something. And also, I didn't work for 2.5 years during the pandemic. And when we don't work as a freelance artist, we don't make money. And so all of these things came together where I was like, I want to have a way where if I can't physically work, or I'm sick, or something happens, that I can still be involved in something. And also, there was a need for this product on the market. And I said, oh, I could fill this need. And so it just kind of organically happened. I didn't dream of it. It wasn't something that I always set out to do, but it has been an incredible use of my creativity and dyslexia, because now I got really used to using my creativity on set or with makeup or in that realm. But now I'm using it for branding, for design, for compacts, for messaging. And it's it's like an amalgamation of everything I've ever done into a new universe that's like really exciting.
That sounds fantastic. When's it launching, or has it
In the new
launched?
year. In the new year. Yeah.
And can you tell us what it's called?
I'll show you. It's called
Oh,
Spatch.
amazing.
And it is a duo. I'm wearing it now. It's a duo pressed powder concealer. So all of the other concealers on the market are creams, but a powder has the same finish and kind of skin texture as your skin. So anybody can use, this is the brush, this is the powder. Like, I have a zit right now, and it's like somewhere over here, I can't really see, but you just like tap it on and it gets rid of it invisibly.
God, I can imagine there'll be teenagers all over the world that will be desperate to, well, everybody, we all get zit sometimes, don't we?
Some people will use it every day, and some people will use it once a month, and whatever. I don't know how big it will be, but I do know that there will always be a market for it. Even if it's niche, there's going to be people who want it. And it's really exciting to now like share it with people and get it out there, because when you're starting something, there's a million reasons why you shouldn't. And it's very lonely and scary. It's expensive. There's too much competition. It's going to be too hard to make. And it can really be overwhelming, the amount of discouraging things about something. And then you finally get it, and you use it on people, and they're like, oh my God, I love this. And it's like, okay, I just got to stay the course. This is validating. So we'll see. I have no idea where it will go. I just know that it's been really fun and good for my self-esteem to do something new and be creative and channel my mind into something new. It feels great.
That sounds fantastic. Sounds brilliant. Well, congratulations with that. And we'll all keep an eye out for it when it hits the stores.
Thank you.
Can I take you back to your school days? Because we've got to do that when we're talking dyslexia. What was school like for you? You've touched on it a little bit, but how did school make you feel? When did you first know that you might be dyslexic?
I didn't know I was dyslexic until I went to college because it wasn't diagnosed. I knew I had learning disability, but it was all very nebulous. It was like, didn't know. My mom did take me to get testing done and do things, but I just think maybe it was the time, wasn't, or whatever. I also went to public school. Maybe they didn't have the best resources. I remember them taking me to the special ed room. I always had really smart friends because I'm smart and I like smart people, and my friends were all really smart in their own ways. And then I had the woman come to the door and say, come on, we're going downstairs for an hour or two, whatever, to the resource room. And I was like, bye, I don't see you. Literally, she had to like pry me out of the room, and I went down there. And then they were reading like the Berenstain Bears like picture book, to kids. And I was like, I don't belong here. Like, this is not what I need. So I knew when some of the kids went to what we call GATE, which is like gifted and talented, and you're not one of them going, it feels like a big diss. And, what's wrong with me? Why are all my best friends going to the gifted and talented and I'm not? And so I was aware that the reading was really hard. When I was in first grade, which I did twice, I just was not focused. We were learning phonetically, I think, about the sounds of words and learning to read. And I was like pulling up the red rug string and like drooling on my knee and like really just not like daydreaming the whole time. I don't know if I ever really even learned phonetics. Like to this day, I don't know. Like I have no idea. It wasn't going in. So I was aware at a young age, if I didn't like the teacher that I had, I was not a good student. I remember getting in trouble. We had this horrible music teacher who I didn't like, and I was acting out with her, got sent in the hallway. It was really hard because I had all this energy and confusion, I think, and boredom in the classroom. I think my last bad year was the 5th grade. And then when I got to the 6th grade, I kind of comported myself to what you should do as a student, but also part of me died. I mean, it sounds so dramatic, but part of me went inside. I think a lot of, being gay, I was trying to cover that up by not giving signals. I had some depression stuff. So a lot of my spirit kind of went inward after the 6th grade, and probably came back out, I don't know, as an adult. Still trying to get there.
Yes, school's tough, isn't it? It's definitely tough. But what do you think your 7-year-old self would think about where you are now?
Oh, he would want me to take him out to a really nice meal and something fancy and go shopping, and he would think I'm really, cool. I wish I could say just, it's going to be fine. Lean into what you're good at. Look at where you're going to be. You are living life on your terms and you're happy, which is what I think my younger self would be impressed with me.
I bet he would. I bet he would. And that's such amazing advice for all kids, because it will all come good in the end. It can be tough whilst you're at school. Do you think that the fact that it was tough, the fact you've had to find your own way, would you say that all of that has built you into the person you are today? I mean, I love the idea of when you fail, you do something for yourself so you don't feel like a victim. Do you think all of those things?
That's new.
Is
Yeah.
it
I
awesome?
do. I do. I think there was some unnecessary suffering, unfortunately, that comes with it. I think to grow up dyslexic is to suffer a little bit, at least when I did.
Mm.
Things are so different now. My partner and my friend, we were on some trip and I was going on and on about something. They're like, you're like a pit bull. Like, once you get your mind on something, you just lock on and you don't give up. And I do think that tenacity is a part of who I am. And I think that that for sure comes from me wanting more for myself and figuring out what can I do within my skill set to get where I want to go. I mean, I never feel like I'm actually where I want to be. It's never enough, and it's always changing. The goalpost changes, but there is something about I think growing up feeling like you have some inadequacies and wanting to I don't know, prove to other people, because I'm not really, it's not about that. It's just for myself, knowing where I want to go and trying to figure out how I can get there.
And what does success look like to you?
I have two sides of my brain. I mean, one side of my brain is very commercial, and to be honest, and it means, rich and famous and, having it all, and in a very kind of Western civilization way. And I do want that. But I actually think success is, in my better self, is obviously being happy and having meaningful relationships in life, and having appreciation. This is my best self. I don't live in this space very often, actually. But I think it means aligning what you're good at and your passions are kind of the same thing. And what your passions align with your intent in life, that's successful. Because I think there's too much pressure put on performance and achievement. And I don't think that's necessarily what success is. Success is actually being content and happy with what you're doing and feeling a sense of fulfillment and purpose rather than being the best.
Yeah, I 100% would agree with you. And if you had advice for dyslexic people around the world, I mean, you have tapped into your passion, you've tapped into your talents, you're incredibly successful at what you do. What would your advice be to other people to find that success and that happiness with their dyslexic thinking?
I would say follow your instincts, follow your passion, and you know it. You know what you're good at. We are passionate people, we're curious people, and that the only problem with being dyslexic is that other people tell you it's a problem. It's not actually, a hindrance at all. It's just, with the way of schooling and learning that we have now, you're made to feel less than, but actually it's a strength. You're supposed to be dyslexic. Mankind needs dyslexics in the world to further us and to stay around. So I would say get through what you're not good at, find help, ask for people. I ask 10 times a day my partner, how do you spell this? How do you spell that? Because I want to send proper emails, and I work really hard at doing that. Something that might take a non-dyslexic a minute to do might take me 5 minutes, but it's important to me to send something out properly. But I would say just lean into what you're good at and then go for it.
That sounds like an amazing piece of advice to finish on. Thank you so much, Quinn. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Thank you.
This podcast is sponsored by Microsoft, who, like us, are passionate about empowering dyslexic thinking. Check out their brilliant immersive reader, free across several Microsoft 365 apps, which helps dyslexic thinkers to fly, by clicking the Microsoft link in the podcast notes. Well, that was the last in the current series of Lessons in Dyslexic Thinking. I really hope that you've learnt masses about how dyslexic thinking works and its huge value in the world today. We're recording the next series at the moment, and we'll be back with you in a few weeks' time. So once again, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.